this wedding! Steven, don't marry her!
Felicia, what are you doing here?
Security, get her out. She's obsessed with us. Obsessed? I'm here because you stole my life. Don't believe a single word she sees, bitter because you moved on.
Felicia, why are you saying this? What are you talking about?
3 years ago, Maya didn't just steal you. She destroyed everything I had first. She's lying. Then why are you so scared of what's inside this envelope? What's in the envelope?
Why does the bride look so nervous?
Steven, please don't listen to her. Go ahead. Tell him the truth yourself. Tell him how you forged messages, how you manipulated everyone, how you made me believe the man I loved had betrayed me.
What is she talking about?
Steven, I can explain. No. Today, there are no more lies. Everyone finds out who Maya really is.
The bride was moments away from saying, "I do," but before the vows could be exchanged, one woman walked into the church with a secret powerful enough to destroy 3 years of lies. How did two women, who once called each other sisters, become sworn enemies? And what did Maya do to steal the man standing at the altar? To find out, we have to go back 3 years, when friendship was real, love was innocent, and betrayal was only just beginning. Welcome to Nenya Folktales, where every story teaches you about betrayal, karma, love, and life lessons. If you love emotional stories with crazy twists, subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss a new story every Mon, Wed, and Sat by 8 p.m. Now, let's get into today's story. 3 years earlier, Felicia Williams believed she had everything she had ever prayed for. At 28, she had built a peaceful life in Atlanta. She loved her job as a youth counselor, had a small circle of genuine friends, and was deeply in love with Stephen Carter, the man she had dated for 4 years. Everyone who knew them believed they were meant to be together. Stephen wasn't just handsome and successful. He was kind, patient, and loyal. He never missed an opportunity to make Felicia smile, whether it was sending flowers to her office for no reason or showing up with her favorite coffee after a long day. Felicia often told people, "A relationship isn't perfect because people never argue. It's perfect because two people choose each other every single day." Stephen always chose her. There was only one person who secretly wished he wouldn't. Maya Brooks had been Felicia's best friend since college. They had survived exams, heartbreaks, and years of chasing their dreams together. Felicia trusted Maya so much that she had given her a spare key to her apartment years earlier. Maya knew every secret Felicia had ever shared, including the biggest one of all. Felicia believed Stephen was going to propose soon. One Saturday afternoon, Felicia invited Maya to her apartment to help choose a dress for a charity banquet she and Stephen would attend that evening. Dresses covered the couch as Maya watched Felicia hold a navy blue gown against herself. "What do you think?" Felicia asked with a bright smile. Maya nodded. "Stephen won't be able to take his eyes off you." Felicia laughed. "You always know the right thing to say." Just then, the apartment door opened. Stephen walked in carrying a bouquet of white roses. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Felicia ran into his arms. "Never." Stephen kissed her forehead before handing her the flowers. "Happy anniversary." Felicia looked surprised. "Our anniversary is tomorrow." Stephen grinned. "I know. But tomorrow is going to be busy, so I wanted to celebrate a little early." Maya watched them from across the room. They looked so happy together that it almost made her sick. She forced herself to smile as Stephen greeted her politely. "Good to see you again, Maya." "You too," she replied. While Felicia placed the flowers in a vase, Stephen leaned closer to Maya. "Can you keep a secret?" Maya smiled. "Depends. Tomorrow night, I'm proposing to Felicia." Maya froze for just a second before forcing another smile. "Really?" Stephen nodded excitedly. "I've already asked her parents for permission. I picked up the ring last week." Maya congratulated him, but inside, her heart burned with jealousy. The rest of the afternoon felt like torture. Every laugh between Stephen and Felicia reminded her of everything she wanted but couldn't have. As she drove home that evening, she couldn't stop thinking about the engagement. "Why her?" she whispered to herself. "Why does Felicia always get the life I deserve?" She arrived home, walked straight to her bedroom, and opened an old photo album from college. One picture caught her attention. It was taken years before Felicia met Stephen. Maya stared at her younger self and sighed. If I had met him first, none of this would have happened. Her phone suddenly rang. It was her cousin, Jordan. "Hey, you sound upset," he said. Maya sat on the edge of her bed. "Do you ever feel like life keeps rewarding the wrong people?" Jordan frowned. "What happened now?" "Nothing." "Maya, I know that voice. Tell me." She hesitated before speaking. "Stephen is proposing to Felicia tomorrow." There was silence on the other end. Finally, Jordan said, "You need to let this go." Maya laughed bitterly. "Easy for you to say." "No, I'm serious. They're happy together." "Don't ruin your friendship over feelings that were never returned." Maya looked at the photo album again. "What if she doesn't deserve him? That's not your decision." She ended the call without another word. Later that night, Stephen sat in his apartment, holding a small velvet ring box. He smiled as he imagined Felicia's reaction when he asked her to marry him. Everything was ready. The restaurant had been reserved. Their families knew about the proposal. Even the photographer was secretly waiting to capture the moment. Stephen had no idea that someone else already knew his entire plan. Earlier that day, while Felicia was trying on dresses, Maya had quietly noticed Stephen place the ring box inside the inner pocket of his jacket. She had also overheard enough of his conversation to know exactly where the proposal would happen. Sitting alone in her apartment, Maya slowly smiled as a dangerous idea formed in her mind. "If tomorrow changes everything," she whispered, "it won't be because of a proposal." She reached for her phone, scrolled through her contacts, and stopped at a name she hadn't called in years. Her finger hovered over the screen for a moment before she finally pressed call. The person answered almost immediately. Maya took a deep breath and said, "I need a favor, and I'm willing to pay for it." The man on the other end of the phone was named Derek. Years ago, he had worked with Maya at a marketing company before being fired for creating fake online accounts to spread false information about a client. Maya had never forgotten how good he was at making lies look believable. "What kind of favor?" Derek asked. Maya looked out the window before answering. "I need someone to help me break up a couple." There was a brief silence. "That's risky. You'll be paid." "How much?" Maya named the amount. Derek chuckled. "For that price, I'm listening." Maya explained her plan carefully. "Tomorrow evening, a man named Stephen is planning to propose to my best friend Felicia. I need her to believe he's cheating before he gets the chance." Derek frowned. "Do you actually have proof?" "No." "Then how do you expect her to believe it?" Maya smiled. People don't need proof when they already trust the person telling the story. The next afternoon, Felicia spent hours getting ready for what she believed was an ordinary anniversary dinner. She wore the navy blue dress Maya had helped her choose and smiled at her reflection. Just before leaving, her phone rang. It was Maya. "Hey, where are you?" Maya asked. "Almost ready. Stephen should be here any minute." Maya sounded nervous. "Don't leave yet. I really need your help." "What happened?" "Can you meet me for 10 minutes? It's important." Without thinking twice, Felicia agreed. Maya had never given her a reason to doubt her. 20 minutes later, Felicia arrived at a small coffee shop, a few blocks from the restaurant, where Stephen was waiting. Maya looked anxious. "Thank you for coming. You're scaring me. What's wrong?" Maya hesitated, as if she didn't want to speak. "I almost didn't tell you." "Tell me what?" Maya lowered her voice. "I saw Stephen yesterday." Felicia smiled. "Okay, he wasn't alone." Felicia's smile slowly faded. "What do you mean?" "He was having dinner with another woman." Felicia immediately shook her head. "No, there has to be an explanation." "I thought so too." Maya reached into her purse and handed Felicia her phone. On the screen was a photo of Stephen sitting across from an attractive woman at a restaurant. The woman was smiling at him. Stephen was smiling back. Felicia stared at the picture without saying a word. "I didn't want to believe it either," Maya said softly. "Maybe she's a co-worker." "Maybe." Maya nodded. "But then I saw him hold her hand." Felicia looked up in shock. You're lying. I wish I was. Tears filled Maya's eyes as she pretended to be heartbroken for her friend. I couldn't keep this from you. At that exact moment, Stephen called. Felicia looked at the screen, but couldn't bring herself to answer. A second call came, then a third. Finally, she switched her phone off. Across town, Stephen looked confused. He had been waiting outside the restaurant for nearly 30 minutes, with the engagement ring in his pocket. He called again, but the phone was now off. That's strange, he whispered. An hour later, he drove to Felicia's apartment, but she wasn't home. He knocked several times before leaving, disappointed. Meanwhile, Felicia sat inside Maya's apartment, crying. I don't understand, she whispered. He would never do this. Maya wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Sometimes we never really know the people we love. I trusted him. I know. Maya hugged her tightly while secretly smiling to herself. Late that night, Stephen finally received a text message from Felicia. It simply read, I know everything. Don't contact me again. Stephen read the message over and over in disbelief. He immediately drove back to her apartment, but once again there was no answer. The engagement ring remained in his pocket. The proposal never happened. Across the city, Maya stood alone on her balcony with a satisfied smile. Phase 1 of her plan had worked perfectly. Felicia no longer trusted the man who loved her most, and Stephen had no idea why the woman he planned to marry had suddenly disappeared from his life. Maya looked at the night sky and whispered to herself, now all I have to do is make sure he never finds his way back to her. Stephen barely slept that night. The text message from Felicia kept replaying in his mind. I know everything. Don't contact me again. It didn't make sense. He read it again and again, hoping the words would somehow change. By sunrise, he had made up his mind. He wasn't going to lose the woman he loved without knowing why. Early the next morning, he drove to Felicia's apartment, carrying the engagement ring in his jacket pocket. He knocked several times. No answer. Just as he turned to leave, the door opened. Felicia stood there with tired eyes and a face that showed she had cried all night. Please leave, she said quietly. Not until you tell me what I did. Felicia folded her arms. You know exactly what you did. Stephen looked confused. No, I don't. Stop pretending. She pulled out her phone and showed him the picture Maya had given her. Who is she? Stephen stared at the photo before letting out a long breath. That's Olivia. So you admit it. Felicia, let me finish. Olivia is the wife of one of my biggest clients. Her husband was sitting at the table right beside us. The photographer who took this picture cropped him out. Felicia frowned. What? We were discussing the design of their new home. There were 4 people at that meeting, not 2. Felicia looked at the photo again. Suddenly, it didn't seem as convincing as it had the night before. Who told you I was cheating? Stephen asked gently. Felicia hesitated. Maya. Stephen's face changed immediately. Maya? She said she saw you holding another woman's hand. Stephen shook his head. That's impossible. I have never been alone with Olivia. Before either of them could say another word, Maya's car pulled into the parking lot. She smiled when she saw them standing together, but inside, panic rushed through her. She had expected Felicia to refuse to see Stephen. Instead, they were talking. Maya walked over with fake concern. Felicia, are you okay? Felicia turned toward her. Stephen says the woman in the picture was a client's wife. Maya looked surprised. Really? Stephen stepped forward. You told Felicia you saw me holding another woman's hand. Maya avoided his eyes. Maybe I made a mistake. Stephen stared at her. A mistake almost destroyed my relationship. Maya lowered her head. I'm sorry. I only wanted to protect my friend. Felicia looked back and forth between them. Stephen's explanation sounded honest, but Maya had never lied to her before. She didn't know who to believe. I need time, she finally said. Stephen reached into his pocket and felt the ring box. This wasn't how he had imagined this day. Take all the time you need, he said softly. But please don't make a decision before you know the truth." He walked away, leaving both women standing outside the apartment. The moment Stephen drove off, Maya quickly took Felicia's hand. "I'm so sorry if I misunderstood what I saw." Felicia sighed. "I don't know what to think anymore." Maya wrapped an arm around her shoulder. "Just be careful. Some men are very good at explaining things." That sentence planted another seed of doubt. Over the next few days, Stephen tried everything to save the relationship. He sent flowers. Felicia returned them. He wrote letters. She never answered. He called. She ignored every call. Every attempt pushed her farther away, because Maya was always there, reminding her not to fall for sweet words. One evening, Maya invited Felicia over for dinner. While they were eating, Maya casually asked, "Have you heard from Stephen again?" Felicia nodded. "He keeps trying. And?" "Part of me wants to believe him." Maya slowly put down her fork. "Felicia, can I ask you something?" "Of course. If he really loved you, why was there even a picture in the first place?" Felicia didn't answer. Maya continued, "Sometimes we fight so hard to keep people because we're afraid of starting over." That night, after Felicia went home, Maya smiled to herself. Stephen had almost repaired the damage, but doubt was stronger than love when someone kept feeding it every day. Meanwhile, Stephen refused to give up. He met with Olivia and her husband and explained everything that had happened. They immediately agreed to help clear his name. The next morning, Stephen drove to Felicia's apartment with Olivia and her husband, hoping the truth would finally end the misunderstanding. But when they arrived, the apartment manager handed Stephen a small envelope. "Miss Williams asked me to give you this if you came looking for her." Stephen opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a handwritten note. "Stephen, I need a fresh start. I've accepted a job in Charlotte. Please don't come looking for me. I hope one day we both find the happiness we're searching for. Goodbye." Stephen stood frozen. The ring box slipped from his hand and landed on the sidewalk. He had lost the woman he loved, and he still didn't know that the person responsible was standing only a few miles away, smiling because the first half of her plan had succeeded. 1 year passed. Charlotte gave Felicia exactly what she needed, a fresh start. She poured herself into her new job as a youth program director, rented a small apartment, and slowly rebuilt the confidence she had lost. She smiled more than she cried, but she never allowed herself to fall in love again. Every time someone showed interest in her, she remembered how quickly trust could disappear. Back in Atlanta, Stephen buried himself in work. He became one of the city's most respected architects, but success couldn't fill the emptiness Felicia had left behind. His friends constantly encouraged him to move on, yet every time he looked at the engagement ring locked inside his desk drawer, he remembered the future he had once planned. Maya never stopped checking on him. At first, she sent simple text messages asking how he was doing. Then she started bringing him lunch at his office. Eventually, they began having dinner together once a week. Stephen appreciated her kindness because she had been one of the few people who stayed by his side after the breakup. He had no idea she was the reason it happened. One evening, they sat at a quiet rooftop restaurant overlooking the Atlanta skyline. Stephen looked exhausted after another long day at work. Maya smiled sympathetically. "You work too much." Stephen shrugged. "It's easier than going home to an empty apartment." Maya reached across the table and gently touched his hand. "You don't have to carry everything alone." Stephen looked at her for a moment before quietly saying, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Maya smiled, but inside she celebrated. The walls around Stephen's heart were finally coming down. Weeks turned into months. Their dinners became weekend outings. Weekend outings became vacations. Friends who once knew Maya as Felicia's best friend began assuming she and Stephen were a couple. Stephen still hesitated. Part of him felt guilty, but another part believed Felicia had chosen to leave him. One afternoon, Stephen visited his mother. As they sat on the porch drinking lemonade, she asked, "Have you heard from Felicia?" Stephen shook his head. "Not in over a year." "Do you still love her?" He looked down at the glass in his hands. After a long silence, he answered honestly, "I'll always care about her, but I can't spend my life waiting for someone who doesn't want me." His mother nodded gently. "Then if happiness comes knocking again, don't close the door because you're afraid." Those words stayed with Stephen. A month later, he invited Maya to a charity gala. She looked stunning in a black evening gown, and together they attracted attention everywhere they went. During the event, one of Stephen's business partners smiled and said, "You two make a beautiful couple." Stephen glanced at Maya. She smiled, but said nothing. For the first time, he didn't correct anyone. That night, after dropping Maya off at her apartment, he sat in his car for several minutes before finally calling her. "Maya, did you forget something?" she asked. Stephen took a deep breath. "No, I just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" "For helping me find myself again." Maya closed her eyes, hiding her excitement. "You don't have to thank me. I do." There was a brief silence before Stephen quietly added, "Would you go on a real date with me?" Maya smiled so widely she almost laughed. "I'd love to." 6 months later, they officially announced their relationship. Most people congratulated them, believing life had simply brought two lonely people together. No one questioned it, except Jordan, Maya's cousin. He had watched everything from the beginning, and something never felt right. One evening, he confronted Maya at her apartment. "Tell me the truth." Maya looked up from her laptop. "About what? Did you really just happen to fall in love with Stephen after he and Felicia broke up?" Maya's expression hardened. "What are you trying to say? I'm asking if you had anything to do with their breakup." Maya stood up. "Be careful, Jordan. Answer the question." She walked closer until they were standing face to face. "Even if I did, can you prove it?" Jordan stared at her in disbelief. "You're admitting it." Maya smiled coldly. "I'm saying people believe what they want to believe." Jordan left without another word, but his heart was heavy. He couldn't shake the feeling that Felicia had been betrayed by the person she trusted most. Meanwhile, hundreds of miles away, Felicia received an invitation in the mail to a professional conference being held in Atlanta. She hadn't returned to the city since she left. She held the invitation in her hands for several minutes before whispering to herself, "Maybe it's finally time to go back." She had no idea that returning to Atlanta would change all of their lives forever. Felicia arrived in Atlanta on a bright Monday morning. The city looked the same, but everything felt different. Memories flooded her mind as she drove past the coffee shop where she and Stephen used to meet every Saturday, and the park where they had celebrated their 3rd anniversary. She reminded herself that she wasn't there to relive the past. She was only in town for a 3-day youth leadership conference. After checking into her hotel, she headed to the conference center. During the lunch break, she stepped outside to answer a phone call from her mother. As she ended the call and turned around, she froze. Standing only a few feet away was Stephen. He looked just as shocked. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. Finally, Stephen broke the silence. "Felicia," she smiled awkwardly. "Hi, Stephen. I can't believe it's you. I'm only here for a conference." "I'll be leaving in a few days." Stephen nodded. "You look happy." "I'm trying to be." There was an uncomfortable silence before Felicia asked, "How have you been?" Stephen hesitated. Life has changed. Before he could say anything else, a familiar voice interrupted them. "Stephen." Maya walked toward them with a bright smile, but the moment she saw Felicia, the smile disappeared. "Felicia," she said, pretending to be surprised. "It's been a long time." Felicia forced a polite smile. "It has." Maya immediately slipped her hand into Stephen's. Felicia noticed the gesture, but kept her composure. Stephen looked uncomfortable. "Felicia, Maya, and I." Before he could finish, Maya held up her left hand. A large diamond engagement ring sparkled in the sunlight. "We're getting married next month." Felicia's heart skipped for a moment, but she quickly smiled. "Congratulations. I hope you're both happy." She excused herself and walked away before either of them could see the tears filling her eyes. That evening, Jordan called Felicia after hearing she was back in Atlanta. "Can we meet?" he asked. It's important. Curious, Felicia agreed. They met at a quiet cafe near the conference center. After a few minutes of small talk, Jordan leaned forward. There's something I've wanted to tell you for 2 years. Felicia looked concerned. What is it? Jordan took a deep breath. I don't think your relationship with Stephen ended because he cheated. Felicia stared at him. What are you saying? I think Maya planned the whole thing. Felicia felt her heart begin to race. Jordan, that's a serious accusation. I know. Do you have proof? He shook his head. Not yet, but I confronted Maya before she started dating Stephen. She practically admitted she manipulated everything, then challenged me to prove it. Felicia sat quietly. For the first time in years, the questions she had buried began to return. Jordan continued. Something has never felt right. Stephen kept trying to explain, but nobody listened. Maya was always the one telling you what to believe. Felicia remembered every conversation she had with Maya after the breakup. Every doubt, every warning, every tear. Suddenly, they didn't feel the same anymore. If you're right, Felicia whispered, then I destroyed my own relationship because I trusted the wrong person. Jordan nodded. And Stephen lost the woman he loved for the same reason. That night, Jordan couldn't stop thinking about the conversation. Determined to find the truth, he drove to the storage unit, where Maya had kept some old boxes after moving apartments. Years earlier, Maya had asked him to help move them, and she had never bothered collecting one small box that still had his name on the access form. As he searched through it, he found old notebooks, receipts, and envelopes. Then something caught his attention. An old flash drive was taped inside the cover of a notebook. Jordan frowned. What is this? The next morning, he plugged the flash drive into his laptop. Several files appeared on the screen. Most were ordinary documents, but one folder was labeled private. Inside were screenshots of fake text messages, edited photographs, and voice notes Maya had recorded while planning different parts of her scheme. Jordan's hands began to shake. He clicked on one audio file. Maya's voice filled the room. Once Felicia believes Stephen cheated, she'll walk away on her own. I won't have to force anything. Jordan covered his mouth in disbelief. He had finally found the proof. Meanwhile, across the city, Stephen and Maya were meeting with their wedding planner, choosing flowers, and finalizing seating arrangements. Maya smiled as she looked at the wedding designs. Everything is perfect. Stephen nodded, but something about seeing Felicia again the day before had unsettled him. You're thinking about her, aren't you? Stephen sighed. Seeing her brought back memories. That's all. Maya took his hand. The past is the past, Stephen. He smiled politely. You're right. But neither of them knew that Jordan was already driving toward Felicia's hotel, with the flash drive that had the power to destroy Maya's wedding before it even began. Jordan knocked on Felicia's hotel room door just after sunrise. The moment she opened it, he walked in and placed the flash drive on the table. I found it. Felicia looked confused. Found what? The truth. He connected the flash drive to his laptop. The first file was a voice recording. Maya's voice filled the room. Once Felicia believes Stephen cheated, she'll leave him herself. I won't have to fight for him. Felicia covered her mouth in shock. Jordan opened another file. It contained edited photos, fake text messages, and receipts showing payments Maya had made to Derek. Then came another recording. Derek's voice said, "Are you sure this won't come back to haunt us?" Maya laughed. By the time anyone figures it out, Stephen will already be mine. Tears rolled down Felicia's face. Everything Stephen had tried to explain years ago had been true. She had thrown away the man she loved because she trusted the wrong person. Jordan looked at her. You deserve to know the truth. What you do with it is your decision. Felicia wiped her tears. When is the wedding? Tomorrow afternoon. She looked at the laptop for several seconds before quietly saying, I'm going. Meanwhile, Maya was enjoying the final preparations for her wedding. Bridesmaids surrounded her as they laughed and admired her dress. You look beautiful, one of them said. Maya smiled proudly. Tomorrow will be the happiest day of my life. Across town, Stephen was having lunch with his mother. She noticed he seemed distracted. Something is bothering you, Stephen sighed. Seeing Felicia again reminded me of how everything ended. I still don't understand what happened. His mother looked at him carefully. Have you ever thought that maybe there was more to the story than either of you knew? Before Stephen could answer, his phone rang. It was Jordan. Stephen, we need to meet. It's urgent. 30 minutes later, they sat inside Jordan's office. Without saying a word, Jordan played the recordings. Stephen listened in complete silence. When the final recording ended, he sat frozen. This can't be real. Jordan slid the laptop toward him. Every file came from Maya's own flash drive. Stephen stared at the screen. The woman he was about to marry had destroyed the woman he had once planned to spend his life with. Everything had been built on lies. Where's Felicia? Stephen asked. She knows the truth now too. Stephen closed his eyes. I need to talk to Maya. Jordan shook his head. Not yet. If you confront her now, she'll destroy the evidence and deny everything. Let her believe nothing has changed. Stephen slowly nodded. The next day, the church was beautifully decorated with white roses, gold ribbons, and crystal chandeliers. Guests filled every seat, smiling as soft music played. Maya stood in the bridal suite wearing an elegant wedding gown, convinced that she had finally won. Down the hall, Stephen adjusted his tuxedo, but there was no joy on his face. His best man noticed immediately. Are you okay? Stephen looked toward the church doors. I'm about to get answers I've waited 3 years to hear. The ceremony began. Maya walked down the aisle with a bright smile, believing she was moments away from becoming Stephen's wife. She reached the altar and took his hands. The officiant smiled. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. Just as he began speaking, the large church doors opened. Every guest turned around. Felicia walked slowly into the church, holding a brown envelope. She wasn't dressed to cause a scene. She wore a simple navy blue dress and walked with quiet confidence. Maya's smile disappeared instantly. Stephen looked at Felicia, then back at Maya. The church fell completely silent. Maya whispered through clenched teeth, "What is she doing here?" Felicia stopped a few feet from the altar and looked directly at Stephen. I'm sorry I'm late, but before this wedding continues, there's something everyone deserves to know. Every eye in the church turned toward her as Maya's heart began to pound with fear. Felicia stood in the center aisle, holding the brown envelope with steady hands. The church was so quiet that no one dared to breathe. Maya forced a smile and looked at the guests. Please excuse her. She's my former best friend. She's still bitter about the past. Felicia shook her head. No, Maya. I came because I finally learned the truth. Maya laughed nervously. What truth? Felicia slowly removed a flash drive from the envelope and held it up. The truth that you've been hiding for 3 years. Maya's face instantly lost its color. Stephen looked at the flash drive, then at Maya. What is she talking about? Felicia turned toward the guests. 3 years ago, Maya convinced me that Stephen was cheating on me. She showed me fake evidence, paid someone to help her destroy our relationship, and waited until I walked away. Maya quickly stepped forward. She's lying. Jordan walked into the church from a side door. No, she's telling the truth. Every guest turned to look at him. Jordan walked to the front, carrying a laptop. I found Maya's flash drive. Maya's breathing became heavier. Jordan, don't do this. He ignored her and connected the laptop to the church's sound system. A voice recording filled the room. Once Felicia believes Stephen cheated, she'll leave him herself. I won't have to fight for him. Maya's own voice echoed through the church. The guests gasped. Stephen slowly stepped away from Maya. Jordan played another recording. By the time anyone figures it out, Stephen will already be mine. Tears filled Stephen's eyes as he looked at Maya. Tell me those recordings are fake. Maya couldn't speak. Jordan opened another file showing the edited photographs and fake text messages Maya had created. Then he displayed the payment receipts she had sent to Derek. There was no denying it anymore. Stephen's mother stood up from the front row with tears running down her face. You destroyed 2 innocent lives. Maya finally broke down. I loved him, she cried. I loved him before Felicia did. Felicia looked at her sadly. Love doesn't destroy people. Obsession does. Maya fell to her knees. Stephen, please. I know what I did was wrong, but the love we've built these last 3 years is real. Stephen stared at her with disappointment. Every happy memory I had with you started with a lie. How can I trust anything after today? Maya reached for his hand, but he stepped back. The officiant quietly closed his Bible and walked away from the altar. Stephen removed his wedding ring from the pillow before it was placed on Maya's finger. He looked at the guests and said, This wedding is over. One by one, the guests stood up and began leaving the church. Maya's bridesmaids quietly followed behind them. Within minutes, the beautiful church was almost empty. Maya remained on the floor, crying as the life she had fought so hard to build disappeared before her eyes. Outside the church, reporters who had been invited to cover the wedding quickly learned what had happened inside. By evening, videos from the ceremony had spread across social media. Maya's reputation collapsed overnight. 2 days later, the real estate company where she worked called her into the manager's office. Our clients have seen the news, the manager said. They no longer trust our company representing them through you. I'm sorry, Maya, but we're terminating your employment effective immediately. Maya silently packed her belongings and left the office. Things only became worse. Her landlord informed her that she was months behind on rent, after spending nearly all her savings on the wedding. She was forced to move out of her luxury apartment. Friends stopped answering her calls. Family members who had defended her were embarrassed by what she had done. Even Derek was arrested after investigators discovered his role in creating fake evidence for money. Months later, Maya sat alone on a park bench, with nothing but a small suitcase beside her. She looked around at the happy couples walking past and quietly whispered, I traded my best friend for a dream that was never mine. Across town, Stephen met Felicia at the same park where he had once planned to propose years earlier. They walked together in silence before Stephen finally spoke. I owe you an apology. Felicia shook her head. No, we were both victims of the same lie. Stephen smiled sadly. I kept the ring all these years because I couldn't throw it away. Felicia looked at him. I spent 3 years blaming you for something you never did. They stood quietly for a moment before Stephen said, I'm not asking for another chance today. Trust takes time to rebuild. But if you're willing, I'd like to start by being your friend again. Felicia smiled for the first time in a long while. I think that's the right place to start. They walked away side by side, not rushing into the future, but leaving the past behind. Sometimes, karma doesn't arrive with anger. Sometimes, it simply removes every lie until the truth is all that's left. And the greatest lesson of all is this: never let someone else's words become more powerful than the trust you've built with the people who truly love you.